So there were a lot of autopsies done on this presidential campaign we just had, and people were concerned about inflation and a lot of other issues, but this immigration issue seemed to be the dominant issue. It really propelled Trump, not only in his first presidency or his term, but in this term, it really pushed him into office based on what he was proposing. Why is this issue so resonating in communities all over the country?
Well, this invasion was put into the black community. Most of all the illegals that have come to the United States, they were put directly into the black community. From what we saw, it was black people have not been voting for the Democratic Party for at least 10 to 12 years in record numbers. And so once the Democrats saw that, they had to come up with a different idea because black people was just saying, okay, we got to come off the plantation and the mine 60 years under the Democratic leadership and look at our communities, look at our schools, no economics, we don't own anything. Our children aren't being taught to be good citizens. They're not taught to be educated, black kids. And so this thing has been a burden to our community. And the fact of the matter is, the black community has suffered greatly under the Democratic leadership. And a lot of black leaders have been crying about reparations for the black community. With them saying that, it caused the Democratic Party to say, hey, you know what? We don't have money for that. How would we implement this reparation things? Yeah, we know that black people helped build this country, but how can we pay you when we don't have a plan? Well, to the American people and patriots across this country, you had a plan when you brought millions of illegals over to this country. You gave them resources that the black community has been requesting for years now. And so if you say that, oh, well, reparations is not feasible and how would we structure it? Well, my message to the Democrats is you structure it the same way you structure it to bring these illegals in, to come into our communities and take our resources, cause crimes, kill people, and just walk away. So if you want to be true and fair about the matter, then the Democratic Party has been the one that has destroyed the black community, and this is much needed so that the black community can get on its foot.
The issue of the sanctuary cities has been a really pet issue of mine. I've done a lot of research into this, and I had an article last week in Chronicles magazine talking about what does this Trump victory represent as far as the future of sanctuary cities. And my proposal, my idea was that this is the end of the road. They've failed. They've had their shot, and it's been a disaster. Talk a little bit about what's life been like in San Francisco, which has really been one of the prominent sanctuary cities with some, in my opinion, really whacked out politicians and crazy ideas. What toll has that policy had on San Francisco, the black community there, and the community at large?
Yeah, I think in general, sanctuary cities around the country have endured the same kind of problems. Now, what you have in San Francisco is we're one of the pioneers of the sanctuary city policy. We started that, a couple decades ago, where we said, look, we need as many illegals as we can get in the city. We'll give them services. We'll give them driver's licenses. For California and for cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles in California, what they were counting on is if we can get illegals driver's licenses, then ultimately they'll be able to vote because, at that time, a decade or so ago, a couple decades ago, the only requirement that you had when you voted was a driver's license. So they started giving illegals driver's licenses in San Francisco probably 20 years ago. And so what we're finding is that this is a real scheme in order to really disenfranchise. We used to hear a lot from Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, voter disenfranchisement. The biggest voter disenfranchisement is illegal votes. That is by far, and that affects everyone. So we're not talking about black voter disenfranchisement. Oh, you're requiring us to have an ID. No. We're talking about the ability for illegals to vote, to literally vote en masse, and that takes away our voice as American citizens. It takes away our voice as black communities because now our voice for the things that we need within our community, like say we vote in local elections, we're not being properly represented when our vote is being neutralized by a vote that shouldn't be counted.
I wanted to touch on something that Kevin said about the illegals coming here. As a pastor, we've been working with the homeless that sleep under the viaducts. You might have saw Ben Bergquam and Terry Newsom out there. We called it Tent City. But the black community, especially people that I know in the black community like myself, a lot of the street organizations like the Gangster Disciples, the Vice Lords, they got a bad rap because a lot of those young men, we were the ones who was taking out food to the American citizens, sleeping in the viaducts, sleeping in sleeping bags, cardboard boxes. All of that stuff played an important role to us. How can you sit back and watch American citizens, no matter what color, sleep in inclement weather like we saw somebody yesterday here sleeping on the ground? How can you overlook these people who have been here, who are taxpayers, families down on their luck? How can you let them stay in this condition and yet you bring illegals here? In Chicago, they start opening up closed schools. They're giving them hot meals. They're giving them vouchers for housing in Chicago. They're giving them cars. I mean, all of these things that belongs to the American citizens are being doled away into these people who have not spent one dime into our system. And so that was a driving force, especially for the black community, as well as other communities, to see how are we able to look over our own people and then put these people above them who are being paid in record numbers, because most of the migrants in Chicago, when they got there, when they came across the border, they was instituted cards that had about $5,000 on them. Then when they got to Chicago, they was giving them $10,000 a month to live. Then they turned around, they gave them food stamps. They gave them all the amenities that they needed to survive, and yet not one penny was ever doled out to the people that were sleeping under in Tent City. And so I credit the black community.
I asked Pastor Lowery earlier what was the political temperature in Chicago. Where is it at in California after the LA fires, after all these sanctuary experiments gone wrong throughout the state? Is there any movement away from this policy of just misery that we've seen? I mean, now having said that, a lot of the people in California we know have bought into that mentality and may never be swayed.
Right.
But is there any hope for California as far as a reset of their political philosophy and how they vote, I guess?
Yeah. So I do think that we're seeing a swing, right? This past election, these fires with all these DEI hires, with these, pretty much an all-woman fire department, especially at the higher echelons. And if you look at them, I did see pictures of them. They're, very overweight and all of that. So it's like, how could you be a firefighter, carry a hose, go up these fire trails with, 285 pounds and you're 5'6"? I don't understand it, but that okay. But so we have that, and people have seen this, and they're like, something's wrong with this picture. This doesn't look like a fire department. So we've seen these disparities. We've seen what's happening. We see how the state has really gone downhill lately in our major cities. So what we're doing, really the American citizens in California are waking up. For the most part. And the only reason why I hedge on that is I just saw a recent poll that said only approximately 45 to 50% of Californians hold Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass accountable for what happened with the fires. Now, if you know anything about what actually happened with the fires, everybody, it should be 80, 90%. I know your diehard leftist progressive commies are going to pull a lever, however, 100% for the other side, irrespective of what they do, because it's an ideological war that they're in. But for your thinking Americans that don't really have an affiliation with communism at all, why would you, give them, cover with still voting for them? But here's what I'm seeing. We are not going to make a sea change of difference politically in California until we have a national referendum coming from the Trump administration with one of his secretaries, I don't know who it would fall under, who will say that all states must comply with American citizen voting. So you must be able to show before you vote, at the very least in federal elections, but it should be statewide elections as well, you must be an American citizen. And until we do that, California is not going to move. And the reason why is this. I've already mentioned that Gavin Newsom did COVID rules in perpetuity. That means that every single address, illegals, non-illegals, homeless, doesn't matter, everybody gets a ballot. And every single ballot is counted. So what do you do with that? So they don't adjudicate, well, this is an illegal person, this is not. No. Every ballot is counted. So how do you overcome that? Realistically, I believe that Republicans have won the past several elections, or at least the past few elections in California. But because our voices, our votes are not counted, and we're relying on other machines to do the counting for us, which we know how they can be, in some cases, manipulated. I don't know how we overcome it other than a federal mandate that American citizen-only voting is a federal mandate. So when we do that, we'll be able to overcome this. But until we do, I think we're going to be in a lot. We need a lot of help.
Pastor Lowery, you're just such a slouch. You're not up to anything. It's really you got to get off the couch, But that's the opposite of the truth. You're involved in everything. It seems like you are also the host of one of my favorite podcasts, Let the Truth Be Told. So beyond that, or if you want to talk about that, but what else would you say in closing?
I want folks to know that the myth. I want to destroy the myth that President Trump is a racist, because in the black community, the Democrats were able to poison a lot of blacks who have been voting democratically to make us think that President Trump is a Ku Klux Klan or a racist. In all actuality, it was Joe Biden, who was a grand dragon for the Klan, who created the crime bill that incarcerated a lot of young black men who are still in jail to this very day. I credit President Trump for creating that First Step program. And that program came out of another program that the black community needs to get themselves up on. In 2019, President Trump created the Platinum Plan. And folks, look it up. And in this plan in 2019, when he was going to implement it and before the election was stolen, this plan would allow the black community to get back on its feet. $500 billion that would be put into the black community. There would be over 500,000 new businesses created. It'll bring 3.2 million job opportunities for the black community, onshore manufacturing that can do a lot for us. The Platinum Plan that President Trump put together, and folks, you have to look at it, would restore the black community to a prominence that I saw when I was growing up in Inglewood, in Chicago where I grew up. The black community was self-sufficient. We owned our own stores, gas stations. We had banks. We had all of those things. And in 2019, when President Trump created this, it was hijacked by the Democrats. So President Trump is back in office. And one of the things that I've been meeting with some of his people about, and I asked President Trump, please reinstitute the Platinum Plan. Black folks, if you don't know what it is, take a look at the Platinum Plan, because all the economics, financial stability, the Second Step program that will follow the First Step program will continue to release black men out of jail who are not supposed to be there. In the Second Step plan, it will also allow a lot of the black political leaders like Larry and Jeff to be brought out of jail so that they can assist the black community. But the key thing of it is, and this is why I really applaud President Trump, is that in this plan, the Platinum Plan, it makes the black community self-sufficient. And I'm not saying that we want to be pro-black to the point where we're not Americans. All Americans should be concerned about the black community, and as Americans, we should be trying to uplift the black community. And that's what President Trump did in this plan. It allows us to rebuild our communities. It allows us to maintain our own schools. It allows us to be able to create the economic engine in the black community to make it prosper. And so to black leadership and black people out here, the bad leadership will lead you to believe that President Trump is a racist, and that's not true. It's far from it. But if you look at the Platinum Plan like I did, I really didn't understand it at first. I'd heard about it, but when I researched it and I looked at it and I saw all the opportunities in it to make the black community strong again, I'm promoting to say, black people, do some research. Let's find out the truth, because I think right now we see what the Democrats have really done to us. They've lied to us. They've stole our communities. They've brought illegals in. They doesn't care about our homeless. Nothing in the black community is done right under this leadership. But under President Trump's plan, with the Platinum Plan, it would give us our independence. It will restore us. It will restore our schools, our communities. So all of these things is what's needed in the black community, because we all are Americans. And just like I said earlier, believe it or not, when one of us as Americans hurt, no matter what color we are, we all hurting. So I advise people to go research the Platinum Plan and then see it for yourself on what President had done to help our community get on its feet. Folks, you can find me at X, at David Lowery Jr. 1. You can find me on Facebook, David Lowery Jr. And I want to let you know, Brian, we're in the process of creating our own television station. We're having a platform built. Kevin's going to have a show on there. So we want to be an informational network to not only the black community, but to make sure they understand what's out there, how we should be thinking, how we should deal with politics, how we should deal with immigration. So this platform will allow black people to go there and say, you know what, I need to know about this. We will have different programs and different shows that bring solutions to the black community, and that's what's going to be important. We need solutions, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep promoting President Trump's Platinum Plan, and now that he's in office, he can go ahead on and implement it so that we can get back on our feet. But I want to thank everybody for having us here. You, Brian, you've been a strong supporter in my rise to where I'm at right now. It was you who created my intro songs, and it's just the fact that we see people who are Americans coming together, like Ben Berquam, you, David Zier, Steve Bannon. It's all about us being Americans. It's all about us coming together as one America and making sure that we can make America great again. So if you need me, you can find me. My number is 708-663-5262, or you can go to our website, LetTheTruthBeToldRadio.com. LetTheTruthBeToldRadio.com. Leave your information if you want to be a part of this movement to uplift the black community and return it to promise. Give me a call, leave a message so that we can get with you and we can become one America again. God bless you, and thank you.
I want to applaud you too, real quick, Brian. IRLI, let's face it, America would be so much less without you guys doing the frontline work. So I want to applaud you for your vision and your model going forward to actually restore our communities, not just the black community, but all communities across America, by virtue of reducing or eliminating the illegal nature of those that live in those communities. It's very important work, so I want to applaud you and the whole team for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin McGary, Pastor David Lowery, thanks again for taking the time to come in here today. It's going to be a wild ride the next 4 years, so let's keep in touch and reconvene and talk about what happens.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the Immigration Reform Law Institute, go to irli.org. If you found this information useful and you'd like to support the show, go to irli.org/podcast. You can also hear this show on Apple Podcasts, Rumble, and Spotify. And don't forget to check us out on all the major social media platforms. Thanks again.